Guatemala, amidst post-election tensions, popular demonstrations condemned the actions of the institutions and called for the resignation of the Attorney General. In China's Hong Kong region, Typhoon Saola caused flooding and property damage before downgrading to a tropical storm. And in Gabon, the military junta in power announced the reopening of international borders as of Saturday. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Guatemala's President-elect Bernardo Arévalo denounced on Friday that a coup d'etat is underway to break the constitutional order in reference to the actions against his party, Semilla. At a press conference, the sociologist also stated that despite the votes in his favor in the August 20th elections, a plan has been implemented to break the constitutional order and violate democracy. Arévalo called on the people of Guatemala, civil society, businessmen, workers, the popular movement, churches, indigenous authorities, students, among other social actors to unite in defense of democracy and unrestricted respect for the will of the people.
There is a group of corrupt politicians and officials who refuse to accept this result and have implemented a plan to break the constitutional order and violate democracy. These actions constitute a coup d'etat that is being promoted by the institutions that should guarantee justice in our country, headed by the Attorney General Consuelo Porras, by the prosecutor Rafael Curruchiche and the 7th Judge of Penal Instance Freddy Orellana, as well as the Board of Directors of the Congress of the Republic and other corrupt and anti-democratic actors.
Guatemalan social organizations called for a mobilization this Saturday in defense of democracy and the popular will expressed at the polls. Citizens take to the streets to protest against electoral corruption, which intends, through the invalidation of the Semilla movement, to disavow Bernardo Arévalo as president-elect. The Guatemalan leader called for national unity to denounce those who refuse to accept the electoral results by the suspension of the legal personality of the Semilla movement. The country's social movements demand the resignation of those responsible for the crisis and announced that they will gather signatures to support their petition. On Friday, an explosion at a metal factory in southern Brazil has killed at least 4 people and left so far 3 seriously injured. Dozens of firefighters and rescue teams were sent to the site of the explosion in the countryside city of Cabreúva, about 90 kilometers northwest of the city of Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo Governor Tarcísio de Freitas noted that the injured were transferred to regional hospitals, 30 of whom have been reported in serious conditions. The powerful explosion occurred at 11 a.m. local time and completely destroyed the factory. Local media outlets said the blast was triggered by overheating equipment. An official investigation is underway by the authorities.
The company already had authorizations. The company was working relatively within the technical standards, but the question of the details of the standards and whether they comply with all of them will be discussed in the investigation.
I was on my balcony when I heard the explosion. I even thought it was street gas that had exploded, but then I saw the smoke from this factory and I didn't have the courage to come and see it. I have several friends who work there.
In Ecuador, the public prosecutor's office opened criminal proceedings against 6 people allegedly involved in the car bombing in Quito. The judicial body reported that the 6 suspects were put in preventive custody. The defendants will be detained for 3 days while the judicial process continues, in which sentences of 10 to 23 years of imprisonment may be imposed. The authorities will take the time of the trial to continue the thorough investigations of the criminal attack. In the Caribbean, the word Conuco comes from the indigenous languages and names a small parcel of agricultural land. In this occasion, we bring you the story of Las Conuqueras, a group of women in the Venezuelan state of Carabobo that found in communal agriculture the solutions to their families' hardships, sometimes with their bare hands. Today, they feed, nurture, and give a purpose to their community through self-sustained agriculture with governmental assistance. They are the protagonists of this new episode of the series Venezuela on the Move, a production of our colleagues Adriana Sibori and Jesus Romero.
Not even the burning sun or the difficulties that may arise can stop their work. They are known as Conuqueras women and they are farmers.
I have been working here for 10 years for this community. Apart from that, I also study and work. Within the same agricultural zone, there are people like women who are seamstresses, housewives, who do other activities. We organize ourselves either in the morning or in the afternoon to have the possibility of doing all the activities.
Dulby takes care of some of the plots of land in the morning shift. Her son and her daughter-in-law live with her and sometimes help her in the fields.
I teach mathematics in a high school, a public high school. We are people with an enormous treasure, but more than that, of producing, of creating, of doing different things. There is something that we should always keep in mind, which is community, and we should never lose that.
Everything they grow is for their families and the community itself. To this day, they have produced 40,000 kilograms of food, cereals, fruits, and vegetables.
At first it was hard because we started with our hands, with just our hands. We started using spades and machetes to plant. Then we started to work with institutions. We contacted them and they came and they saw that what we were doing was a reality.
Now they receive training, they have instruments, and they have been able to build a deep water well for irrigation. And the government has also given land titles to these organized women. In this town, Conuqueras women serve and distribute the food house by house to more than 13,000 people.
Adriana Sibori y Jesús Romero, teleSUR Carabobo, Venezuela.
Here is Venezuela on the Move in YouTube and other platforms. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back from the south. Spanish police seized at least 3 tons of cocaine on a yacht near the Canary Islands and arrested 6 suspects allegedly involved in a Balkan-based trafficking ring, Europol said on Friday. According to Europol, Spanish police in dinghies accompanied by a warship intercepted the sailboat west of Gran Canaria, which was carrying some 2.7 tons of cocaine hidden in sports bags, while the suspects were arrested at several locations in a Serbian-led operation. In January last year, police in Belgrade launched an investigation into the cartel, suspecting large-scale cocaine trafficking across the Atlantic Ocean. Police also seized 2 expensive vehicles, luxury watches, and more than 550,000 euros in cash. Bosnian Serbs gathered on the outskirts of Sarajevo to protest prosecutor charges against President Milorad Dodik over the 2 controversial laws he passed. Demonstrators briefly blocked the traffic at key points between the country's 2 semi-autonomous entities on Friday, brandishing portraits of Dodik, the effigy of Russian President Vladimir Putin, and Serb and Russian flags. Simultaneous protests took place in the Bosnian capital of Sarajevo and the regions of Tuzla, Doboj, and Nevesinje. Dodik, a Kremlin ally, signed into law last July a legislation that would allow the Bosnian Serb entity to bypass or ignore decisions made by the top international envoy to Bosnia. The U.S. government claims the law undermines the peace deal signed in Dayton, Ohio, which ended Bosnia's 1992-1995 war. The charge against the president was announced by the prosecutor's office on August 11th, but it has not yet been ratified by the country's top court. On Friday, the Belarusian border service stated a Polish military helicopter violated the state border. On Telegram, the border service said a Polish Mi-24 military helicopter crossed the state border at an extremely low altitude, entered a total of 1,200 meters into the territory of Belarus, and then turned back. In addition, the Belarusian Foreign Ministry stated that it had summoned the police chargé d'affaires following the state border violation incident. The ministry added that Poland must provide an explanation of the incident and conduct an investigation. Tensions on the Belarus-Poland border have been rising since the beginning of Russia's special military operation in Ukraine and had a particular upsurge after Russia deployed tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus. The Russian Defense Ministry reported that it had captured several strategic heights near Kupiansk, an eastern Ukrainian city where Moscow increased pressure in August.
In the Kupiansk direction, the tactical position of the Western troop units was improved by taking over enemy strongholds and key heights. By skillful use of means of destruction, significant damage was inflicted on the Ukrainian Armed Forces units. The enemy's losses during the week amounted to 470 Ukrainian servicemen, 22 armored combat vehicles, 21 vehicles, and 18 field artillery pieces. The command of the formations of the Ukrainian Armed Forces purposefully throws personnel into meat grinder assaults without cover to overcome mine and explosive barriers of our forces on foot.
In the special administrative Chinese region of Hong Kong, Typhoon Saola caused flooding and material damage before downgrading to a tropical storm. Not one person has been killed by the storm, but authorities in Hong Kong have urged people to remain alert, for they still expect surges to occur. Tens of millions of people in the coastal areas of southern China had taken refuge in their homes since Friday. Although Hong Kong did not suffer the direct impact of the typhoon, its winds of over 210 km per hour caused the highest alert level in that special administrative region. Saola left down trees, broken windows, and some flooded in stores and public spaces. Greek firefighters battled flames in forested areas in the country's northeastern region on Friday as a massive wildfire continues to burn. The blaze, burning for the 15th day now, has already been blamed for the death of 20 people whose bodies were found last week. On the other hand, firefighters rescued a group of 25 migrants trapped in a forest area as flames approached. The fire department said the group became trapped in the forest between the two villages in the Evros region near the border with Turkey. No injuries were reported and there was no immediate information on their nationalities. However, all are believed to have been migrants who had recently crossed the border. To date, thousands of people have been evacuated from their homes in villages and towns in northeastern Greece due to the fire, although the vast majority have since been able to go back. And teleSUR English launches some videos on demand site for you to go and revisit our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Just go to the top left corner in our website homepage and click on the video option to access our VOD platform. We will now take a final short break. Stay with us. Welcome back from the south. In Gabon, the ruling military junta announced the reopening of the country's international borders. The Committee for the Transition and Restoration of Institutions approved the measure effective immediately so that the land, sea and air borders were open as of this Saturday, September the 2nd. The committee voted for a reopening of borders in order to preserve respect for the rule of law and good relations with neighboring countries and the rest of the international community, as well as to promote the continuity of the state while showing commitment to fulfill its international commitments. The borders had been closed on August 30th when General Brice Oligui Nguema overthrew President Ali Bongo, who had been in power for 14 years. Thousands take to the streets of the Nigerian capital Niamey to demand the removal of French troops from the country. Niger has braced for a weekend of planned anti-French rallies as tensions mount between the West African country's new military rulers and its traditional European ally. A coalition of civil society groups opposed to the presence of French forces in Niger called for a 3-day sit-in starting Friday. The protest, organized by the M62 grouping, is said to take place in central Niamey to demand the departure of French contingent. France has around 1,500 troops in Niger, many of them stationed at an air base near the capital, deployed to allegedly help fight insurgent groups.
Our only request, our ultimate request is the departure of the French who are on Niger territory. We don't need these people here. We don't need, and we repeat, we are ready to die to defend our homeland. We are ready to die to get them out. They must leave. We don't need them here.
In this context, Niger's new military rulers on Friday accused France of further blatant interference after President Emmanuel Macron reiterated his support for ousted leader Mohamed Bazoum.
The government of the Republic of Niger has followed with dismay the remarks made by the President of the French Republic on Monday, August 28, 2023, during his address to the French ambassadors. These remarks constitute a further blatant interference in Niger's internal affairs.
In Israel, at least 11 people were shot and wounded during a migrant protest in Tel Aviv. According to local media reports, security officers opened fire on demonstrators gathered near a location on Yad Harutzim Street, where the Eritrean embassy was planning to hold a festival. The Red Star of David Emergency Service reported that the wounded are receiving medical attention at a local hospital. Of the civilians hospitalized, 4 are in serious condition. The police chief informed that he will carry out an evaluation of the situation in Tel Aviv. In South Africa, 16 men and 2 women suspected of being part of a gang that robbed armored vans were killed on Friday in a shootout with the police in a rural northern region. According to local police, the officers approached a building where the gang was operating and the suspect opened fire. 18 suspects were killed and 1 police officer reportedly wounded in the shooting. 4 other suspects were arrested at a separate location. The gang was suspected of robbing armored vans used for carrying cash for banks and had been under surveillance for days. Police spokesperson Brigadier General Athlinda Mathy said in a statement that 7 automatic rifles and 10 vehicles, including high-performance sports cars, were seized. Cash-in-transit heists are a common and often violent crime in South Africa, and the criminals who pull them off are usually heavily armed. On Saturday, India's first space mission to study the sun departed from the country's southeast at 11:50 a.m. local time. The Aditya probe, which means sun in Sanskrit, took off with the launched satellite polar rocket from the Sriharikota Center. According to information from the Indian Research Organization, the probe will orbit the Earth for 16 days, during which time it will gain speed to reach Lagrange, a place between the sun and the Earth. It is estimated that the mission will take about 4 months before reaching that point, 1.5 million kilometers from our planet. Aditya will study, among other things, the outermost layers of the sun, the photosphere, the chromosphere, and the corona. We have come to the end of this news briefing. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.